Okay, we are live. Welcome back to O&D Life, everybody, where we get orange and dirty. Today, we've got another interview, Jim from Jim's Equipment Shed, his YouTube channel. So, seems like I've known Jim for a long time. It's funny how, through social media and YouTube, you feel like you know people. So, welcome, Jim.
I just realized I'm gonna have to get some anti-glare spray for my glasses here. Like trying to hide.
You know what? I don't think my our viewers aren't that picky. Granted, I say that now. There's going to be probably 10 comments about the glare or something. You know. There we go.
They can look at my nose all in one shot.
Right, just gotta hold it. All right, so guys, Jim is joining us. On one of my videos, on my rollover video, Jim had mentioned how he had rolled his tractor, and turns out he was able to find his pictures. This was back in, what was it, 2007?
Yep.
Okay.
October 17th, I think. At least that's what the pictures.
Okay. And so Jim was able to find the pictures, and I thought it'd be good to get them on, and let's talk about what happened, what led up to it, show you guys the pictures, and talk about, about how close of a call it was for you, as well as, how you righted it, got it upright, and all that good stuff. So let's pull up the pictures here. All right. So do you remember that day?
I most certainly do.
And before you get into it, let me just kind of scroll through. I'm going to just give everyone kind of a, all the different angles that you gave us. It's
this is a key one to come back to later.
Okay, yeah. And, so there was no damage, right, to the tractor?
Not even a scratch on the paint.
And that's what amazed me when mine went over. I thought, oh, my gosh, I just, tore up my loader arm or my, loader joystick. I thought for sure it was busted up.
Well, and you can see those rocks, too, in the foreground. So yes, that whole area is loaded with rocks.
Yeah. So, just you laid it over nice and gentle, right?
Yep.
All right. So so I wanted to just kind of give everyone an idea of what they were in for, and we'll get back to a lot of these pictures. Tell us what you were doing, and
so as you can see in those pictures, there's a lot of trees in there, and it's kind of a difficult area to weasel my way through. So the tractor was over on the far side of the trees, and there was one tree that was leaned out like this, and I had to get through, and the bucket being low wasn't going to make it through. So I brought the bucket up, and then I backed my way through the trees. And because I was rushing, I was expecting my my grandson to come over. Because I was rushing, I got over onto the backhoe real quick because I was actually about 1.5 feet away from where I needed to be. So I was just going to lift the machine up with the backhoe like I normally do and walk it over, which is, don't do this at home, kids, because it's not a smart way to do it. But I was going to do it anyways. So what I ended up doing is, as soon as I put the down pressure on the boom arm, lifted it up, it took one tire off the ground, and the machine instantly just started going right over. And it was too late to do anything after that. So as it started going over, I felt a tree hit me in the shoulder, and then I kind of leaned forward and jumped out of the way of it. And then the next thing I know, I'm on the ground, the tractor's laying on its side. And then I hurried up and I jumped back inside of the cab of the tractor and then pulled the fuel kill, because the last thing I wanted to do is damage my engine. So the engine got cut off probably within 3 seconds of it getting tipped over. And then I ran in concentric circles like a 5-year-old girl.
I was gonna say 3 seconds. So you got thrown out and you got around and got into it and got it turned off pretty quick. You Yeah, it must have been a long time ago when you were a lot more spry, huh?
In 2007, apparently, I still have my ninja skills.
That's right.
And the nice thing is that this tractor does have a fuel pull on it, so all I had to do was reach in and pull on the fuel pull knob. So it was pretty easy to get to. So there wasn't any. I didn't have to worry about the key or because of the orientation of the machine trying to figure out how to turn the key off. Because it's amazing how your brain doesn't think of things when you're in that high speed mode.
Well, and one of the other comments that I got on one of the other interviews that I did or discussions was that their tractor started to run off, even though he tried to turn the key off. So knowing how to shut the fuel off or some other shut off sounds like everyone kind of needs to know just in case that happens.
Well, and had this been a runaway, that really wouldn't have helped me much, because if the crankcase had gotten up there, I wouldn't have been able to stop it. Probably I would have had to have pulled the air cleaner off, and mine's set up like your BX where you've got that big snorkel coming out and everything else. So in order to actually stop the flow of oxygen, that would have been tricky.
That's right, because it's actually running on the oil at that point, right?
Yep.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, I lived in South America, and I've actually seen a couple of runaways, and those are something that you want to run away from.
Because they just start getting so hot. And
the RPMs just go unlimited because it's not being regulated by anything anymore. It's living off its own juices. It just,
man. Yeah,
it's bad. It's real bad. In this case, I got super lucky because as soon as I went over, and I was already on the ground standing up, so I didn't fall down or anything, and then I didn't have the doors on the cab, so I was able to get right back into there immediately and get it shut down before any damage got done.
And you have a separate seat on yours, is that correct?
Yep. So mine on the back of that unit, that's actually a 3-point backhoe. So that was back in the old school days. This was the smallest tractor, the B7300. It was the smallest tractor that you could get at that time on one of the smaller machines, because the BX units did not have backhoes at that point. The older ones, like the 245s or whatever they were, they had them, but they were like an 8-stick thing that was not available when I bought that tractor. So when I bought this tractor, this was the one that I got. It's a 3-point connection, and it's got a special subframe that goes underneath so you don't crack the tractor in half.
Okay. And tell us again which model again? So
this is a B7300. And
B7300.
It's a 16 horsepower unit. So I actually have less horsepower than you do on your
on the BX.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, I thought that it was a bigger tractor. I'll be darned.
It is. It's physically larger than your tractor, but it's got a smaller displacement.
Yeah.
Go figure.
And it just amazes me that no damage to your cab either.
And I think what was really helpful there is you can see the roll bar right behind the cab.
Yeah.
That roll bar also took some of the blow when it landed, and the cab is steel, and it's got a steel frame on it. That's a glass windshield on the front, so it's a pretty heavy duty unit.
Yeah.
That's a big old Sims beast. I got that aftermarket after I bought the tractor.
So as you were saying, you were in a hurry. You were trying to get done. I'm hearing a similar theme in some of these accidents. Just
every element of stupid that you could possibly apply was applied in this one scenario. So I couldn't have done any one more thing that would have been any more stupider.
So you were just going to go ahead and move over, move your back end over with the backhoe?
You can kind of see in this picture here, I was going to side shift it. So I was going to basically lift myself up on the bucket and just move over a couple inches. So normally what I would do to do that is I would drop my outriggers down, just kind of hovering above the ground, and then just push down on the bucket, lift myself up an inch, and then just bring myself over. In this case, I not only had the bucket up in the air not to stabilize the front, because your front articulates, obviously, but I also had my outriggers all the way up. So it just went.
So, I mean, just because you were in a hurry, but essentially.
Totally.
Yeah.
Essentially about it. It is absolutely the dumbest thing I've probably ever done on a piece of equipment.
Man. And like you said, you were in the military. I followed you on, the tractor forums and on your channel and know that you've ran a lot of equipment.
So if anybody should know better, it should have been me, which goes to shit, the old getting complacent thing.
Yep.
Now you can see that picture there. You see where that tree is?
Are you able to see my mouse, my cursor?
Yep.
Okay.
So that's right where the seat is. So that tree was within 2.5 to 3 inches of the bottom of the seat and probably 3 inches of the back of the seat. So had I not felt that tree hit me in the shoulder as I was rolling over, had I been backwards, the tree would have been in front of me and it would have pinned me in 2 different directions, which would have not ended. Yeah.
Well, and in my video, that's one of the things that I noticed, that if I would have been back just a little bit, if I would have rolled a little bit sooner, it would have put me into a tree and pinned me. Man. Well, and so you probably could have just pushed, hit that tree with your hand and pushed yourself back up, probably.
I think probably if I was like 6'8", maybe 300 pounds, I might have been able to pull that off. Maybe just stop it real quick, like a ninja.
That's right. Oh, man. Apparently speed is your superpower. I mean, you just jumped off and turned it off.
It certainly was that day, because I had to end up between that outrigger that you can see and the tree. So I managed to squeeze between those two things somehow while it was going.
And so thank goodness, and I think you said it in the picture or in the Facebook post, that you didn't have your seatbelt on.
Well, there isn't one on this backhoe.
Okay.
So there's a seatbelt on the tractor itself on the inside, but because of the way the 3 points are set up, they don't actually have seatbelts on them. Yeah.
So, I mean, but that's just one of those situations where,
yeah, definitely.
That could have got you. But, and I am so aware now since my rollover, and how if I'd have rolled into the tree, it would have got me. I'm just so aware of what I'm doing and what is beside me in case I did roll over. So whether or not to take my seatbelt off, basically.
I would have been so seriously dead, it wouldn't be funny, because the only one that was there at the time was my wife, and she was over in her shop, and there's no way she would have heard me. And then my grandson and stepson were going to show up, but they didn't show up for another 35 minutes. And with your oxygen supply cut off for 35 minutes, you probably, no.
That's not going to look good.
Nope.
Oh, man. So I mean, I wanted to see if I can get another view of how far down the backhoe was. So, I mean, like you said, you had the loader up, trying to get it into position. And that's one of the other things. And I think I mentioned, cue the comment, always keep your loader down. Sometimes you got to raise it up, though.
I'm one of the people who puts those comments in.
Right.
I think I even gave the last guy some crap on it, too.
And yes, you should bring it back down. That's the key. But I mean, we've all had to raise it up to get around something, get over a tree, a bush, a fence post, something. And but like you pointed out, you just didn't put it back down.
I think the situational awareness on this was bad because I was in a rush. I wasn't thinking about everything, and I'm on the backhoe. Had I been on the tractor part, I obviously would have been pointed in the other direction. I would have seen it. So being on the backhoe, I'm one step removed from the other operation in the other end, and I just didn't even pay attention to it, because normally I would just reach through, push the loader valve down, get the loader down on the ground, and then I would have been fine.
Yeah. Let me pause just a second and look out my windows here, because my dogs are going crazy.
That's always fun.
Yeah. Oh, I bet the neighbor's getting their trash can. They are. They'll let you know when anything is amiss. Someone's out there, out and about.
Our dog's good for that.
Yep. Okay, so yeah, I wanted to look at the. Yeah, there's so the.
There you go.
The backhoe, yeah, is extended out, and I'm sure, kind of like me, you know, as it's happening, it takes time to process what the heck is going on, and I think I left my hand on my loader stick and kept raising my bucket even. So, I'm looking at your backhoe, and I mean it is extended out quite a bit there.
Yeah, I've actually seen I've seen that happen before, where people keep pushing on the control long past the point of where they shouldn't be. I saved a buddy of mine from that one day. I was standing next to the machine talking to him, which is also a really dumb thing. And he was pushing his loader, and he was on something, and he kind of like lifted himself up the ground. I pulled the stick back for him. It's like, whoops. I can save up.
So how did you've got some pictures. I know the answer how you got it righted. You used your RTV, and you've got a winch on there. Tell us about that.
So I'm not going into there because I'm trying to fix the engine on the RTV. The winch is actually mounted down on my frame up in the front. They sell the winch kit, but the winch kit puts it way out in front, and because I use a plow, I keep it on the inside. So I have to reach inside in order to unlock my winch to free spool the cable. So that's what this is all about here. And then I pulled the line out, and I hooked it up to my roll bar on the tractor with a piece of chain.
And I think you had a picture that, yeah, it's hard to see.
Might be in one of those. I thought I had a closer shot of that. Maybe not.
You scroll down.
But I got
like
it probably about half
here.
Yep. Well, you can see the cable.
Yeah, cable.
That's very fine there. And then that goes to a piece of chain that's going around the roll bar. It's probably about less than halfway up the roll bar. I didn't have any other place that I could connect it to, and I used that as my pivot point. And then what I would do is I would hit the remote and start to move it a little bit, and then I'd run back to the tractor, and then I'd start loosening up the controls. So like on the loader, I could get the loader to come down, and I could get the backhoe to come up. So as it felt pressure, you move the controls around a little bit, and that allows it to release. And then I go back to the RTV again, give it a little bit more pull, and then do the same thing with the backhoe, just so I could get the backhoe to release its pressure and come back to a flat position again.
And that's, let's hear, who was it? The last, I didn't do an interview. He sent me the email because that's kind of what happened to him when he moved his chair back or to get ready to turn it. It pushed the joysticks forward. So he had to get a wrecker or a crane, I think he said, to lift it up. And then he started it to be able to pull his backhoe up so it could be put down onto the wheels. So like what you were saying, as you brought it pulled on the winch, you had to stop, and then you mess with the joysticks to relieve the pressure. So that way it would, I guess.
So my hydraulics are live, even when the engine's turned off. So like if I had my boom up and then I just throw my controls forward, it would fall while the engine's turned off. And the same applies for the fluid dynamics going in the opposite direction. If I've got pressure against it and I run the control the other direction, it'll allow itself to basically free position itself, as long as you kind of move the knob in the right direction.
Yeah, it kind of puts it into a float.
Yeah, essentially, yeah.
Sort of. Yeah.
Yep.
And that's how mine is.
So that's what I ended up having to do with that, because as you can see, the bucket was down probably about maybe 4 inches below where the tires were. It's hard to tell on this oblique view, but it was high enough where if you tried to roll it over, what you would have is a tractor on its other side.
Right. It would have been balancing basically on that backhoe bucket. Right. And so I was curious of what I was thinking when I was discussing the last one, was maybe a bungee to just pull the joystick back, which would allow it to raise up, I guess, as you rolled it.
And honestly, that would have probably been the smartest thing to do. But like I said, I had just finished doing concentric circles. Oh my God, I think I've just wrecked my tractor, totally freaking out. And, you know, I wanted to get it righted. That was my first thing, is I want to get that machine back up so I could get all the oil to drain back down again and get it to a position where I could attempt restart.
And I totally get, in the spur of the moment, you don't think it's easy to armchair quarterback, without a doubt.
Yep.
Yeah. And so how long total did it take you to write it again?
From flip to writing was about 16 minutes, even though it seemed like an eternity. Because my machines are all close together. My RTV was in the garage right on the other side of where this area is. So I was able to hurry up and get that, bring it around. I already had chains and stuff in the RTV, so I hooked up to it, and then I just had to remember what I was going to do with the controls and everything. So, you know, it was under 17 minutes for sure.
Now, did you have to did you pull the injectors or
no.
glow plugs or anything? Did you just let it set, or
I let it
any
set.
procedure?
In retrospect, I probably should have cracked the injectors. I mean, that would have been the safest way to go about it, obviously. But I don't know. I just figured no guts, no glory. I rolled it over. I let it sit there for a couple hours because I knew enough where I wanted to let the oil go back down. I'm familiar enough with diesel to know about how safe you are. And I've had it on really bad angles before. So I know this machine doesn't really care. Like, I haven't had it on this angle, but I've had it awfully close with a brush hog.
Man.
So I knew that it was pretty resistant to, like, you'd have to be, if I was inverted, I would have treated it differently.
Yeah. Well, and I thought, you know, I think it varies. And I don't know the reason why, or if it's even true, because some guys are fine. You know, that you see in the forums where it goes over and they turn it over, you know, get it righted and start it up, and it's fine. But my interview with Brad, that was his name, where he did pull the injectors, and I mean, he was saying it was like milking a cow. I mean, about half a quart or something like that came out of the top of the pistons. So that kind of surprised me how much came out. He rolled over onto his left side. It rolled to the left, whereas you and I rolled to our right. And I don't know if that makes a difference.
Well, he was also tipped more. So instead of just coming over, he was actually tipped downhill. So I wonder if that might have made a difference too.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Because his was starting to run away from him. Yeah, it started blowing smoke like crazy.
Yeah, because they don't like running upside down. I've seen trucks running upside down before. That doesn't go well for them either.
Well, and was it you that talked about a diesel motor starting to run backwards?
Could have been, because I've had that happen before too.
I think in the forums and some of the discussions, I was thinking it was you. Yeah, maybe Mac
in a military deuce, because the military
and that's what I was thinking.
They can get flipped, and I honestly don't know what causes that. I'm not a diesel mechanic, But I know that I was freaked out. I didn't want to tell my first sergeant, so I shut it off. I did one of these, okay, what did I do to make this happen? And then I started it back up again, and it worked fine. So I didn't put any more thought into it than that. But yeah, it was weird. I was parked on an angle. I think I let it roll forward. I don't know. I did something. It was my fault, but I don't know what it was.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Well, did it just sound different? Is that what you noticed?
The transmission went in the wrong direction.
Oh, so that's what it was. That's what it was. Okay.
Yeah. So it will actually because it's running in the wrong direction, it'll actually shift in the wrong direction.
How bizarre, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what the design feature is on those engines that would do that. I've never had that happen on a tractor. But
yeah.
Supposedly it can.
And it seems like in the forums, I might have seen where someone did mention that happening, or it might have just come up in conversation that maybe it can. I can't remember. It's been a while.
Yeah, I don't think that's as uncommon as it should be.
Yeah. So, do you still have this tractor, don't you?
Yep. I was just on it yesterday, in fact. Yeah, this tractor works a lot.
So let's see here. It is, how old is that? So it's
a 19.
Say that again.
I said it's a 1998.
Oh wow! So have you had it since then?
Yep. I bought the tractor brand new from a local Kubota dealer, and originally all I wanted was I just wanted the backhoe because I had a bunch of ditches that I needed to dig on my property. And then my dealer ended up talking me into putting a loader on it as well, which is interesting because now I use the loader like 90%, and I don't really use the backhoe at all anymore.
Yeah. That's always a debate in the forums. Hey, is the backhoe worth it for the B or the BXs?
It is.
You know, I think you do your projects with it, and then, yeah, it sits until you have to bury something.
The only reason why I stopped using my backhoe was because I got an excavator, and an excavator is hands down way better than a backhoe.
That's right. That's right. You do have the Mini X.
Yep, and I've got unloaded tires, so if I take the backhoe off, now I'm going to be in real trouble because there's no counterweight.
Yeah.
So I have to be conscious of that when I'm brush hogging because I don't have the extra weight most tractors have.
Yeah.
But it worked out because it's given me a couple of good jobs. You can see these tires really well from this vantage point. So because they're a pretty good size flotation, I did a lot of work with wet jobs. So I could see the areas that the larger tractors would just sink out of sight.
Oh.
Other than that, they're useless. They suck in the mud. They suck on dirt. They're just terrible tires.
Oh. Now, what, I guess, what would they be considered like the new R14s? Is that what the new ones are that I hear about nowadays?
These were the AgriTurfs, and I think they stopped selling them pretty much like a couple years after I got these.
Yeah.
This was that was a Kubota tire. So what they would give you is the rear AgriTurf and then just like a regular crappy turf tire like I've got on the front. Those are the OEM tires. I've never changed them.
Yeah.
And
wow.
Yeah, so I don't know what you'd put them together with now.
Yeah. How many hours are on your machine now?
I think 1,700. So not as many as you might think for a tractor that old.
Right. But you know, so it's been 13 years since the rollover. So, I mean,
it made it.
Yep. No problems at all.
And no smoking or any ill effects from any of that. Like I said, I didn't even put a scratch on the side of the tractor. It was perfectly fine.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. Any other lessons learned or anything like that that you would share with some folks?
I think the lessons learned were the lessons that I knew before. So I think the lesson learned is stick with the lessons that you know and actually follow them, and don't rush. No matter what, you always got time to do something wrong twice, I guess. But it was, you can see the rocks on the other side. Had I rolled over in the other direction, I would have ended up with some more scratches. That's for sure. But yeah, it was just, it's usually not one error that gets you into trouble. It's a couple of them. And it was a combination that I was rushing. It's a combination that I had that tree that was on an angle, and I'm trying to get my bucket up high enough to clear it, and I'm backing around that. And when I backed around, it put me on a funny angle, so I wasn't set up for the next job that I was getting ready to dig on. So it was a whole bunch of different things that stuck together to give me a crap pie.
That's I mean, that's how life is, though, and nothing's textbook. You know, when you're out there doing a job, and I mean that I guess that's why you just got to remember, kind of almost have a pre-flight checklist, a pre-departure checklist to go through and just make sure.
But I was also rushing too, because I was trying to get it. I was rushing after the fact because I was trying to get it righted before my wife came outside, and I told you so. That was going to be coming. And like, oh, no.
I know exactly what you mean. My wife had no idea that I had rolled my tractor.
Yeah, Mary's had enough ideas because, like I said, I get into a lot of interesting jobs where I'm in different places where you're on angles. I've fallen off embankments. I've launched over cliffs. All sorts of stuff. The tractor's taken a few knocks, that's for sure.
It sounds like good stories there.
Yeah. So I've had her rescue me a few times. Usually she's the RTV pilot.
Well, and it sounds like, and just based in following you, she can handle herself. It looks like she's a horsewoman, and they tend to be pretty tough.
Yep. Well, and she knows how to run the equipment too. So if I get into a situation where I need help, I don't have to spend 20 minutes trying to explain to somebody how to do something. You can just say, okay, I need you to do this, and yell at me later.
And that probably helps the marriage as well, so that that's the other thing I've learned. They don't like to be told how to do something.
Well, usually I'm the one that gets told to do things. So when I ask her to do something, she's generally right on it.
That's right. All right, Jim. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to share your experience. I've really been pleased with the comments and the people that tell me how much they appreciate hearing the stories. It keeps safety in the back of their mind when they're running their tractors. So I think helping a lot of these new guys out stay a little safer and avoid what we've done, hey, it's a positive.
I think my main takeaway from that was how fast it happened, because like you always hear people hearing, oh, it went over slow, and this really went over super fast. And I think that was the thing that surprised me, is I didn't even have time to do anything.
Yeah, and just fortunate enough that you leaned forward. Yeah. I mean, as you felt that tree.
Well, and that's the only reason why I leaned forward, because something hit me in the shoulder. So I was trying to get out of its way. I had no idea where it was coming from, because at that point, I'm no longer sitting like this. I'm sitting like this. So right. I mentally didn't even have the wherewithal to understand what just hit me. I thought it was like a branch sticking out of a tree or something. I didn't realize it was the tree itself.
Yeah, yeah.
Until I got out here and I stood here to take the pictures, and I was like, oh, yeah, that could have killed me.
And what I realize is that when you're really in a sketchy situation and you're being really careful, it's not going to happen then. When it happens is when you're just going and you're not thinking about it, and you're in a hurry, got complacent. Yeah.
And there was absolutely nothing sketchy about this situation here, other than elements, obviously, that I introduced into it. But The ground is almost perfectly level there. There's nothing in there that should have caused me any trouble. I wasn't up on a rock. There was nothing, you know, my tire didn't fall into a hole. None of the age-old things where you can go, there's the problem. There's the problem. Well, in the driver's seat.
And I appreciate you coming on and talking about it because, as you know, a lot of guys, will comment that, oh, look at that dummy. He shouldn't own equipment, all that good stuff. But hey, they're going to have to try harder to keep up with making the mistakes that we've made. Dang it.
Well, I wish they weren't right. If they weren't right, I'd be able to have some snappy comeback for them. But it was clearly the dumb was with me.
Right. All right, Jim. Well,
hey,
I appreciate it, man. I'm going to hit end, and then we can talk afterwards here.
Great. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Thank you.